Welcome back to the podcast. This is season 3, episode 9, and this week's episode is sponsored by Capture One. So in today's episode, we're going to be looking at some photography beef. I don't think you've seen this yet, Rob. I don't think it's in your genre of photography listening or watching.
No, but in fairness, you never tell me what we're doing on these podcasts.
That is true. There's nothing better than a podcast where your co-host has no idea what's going on. But there we go. We're going to be looking at this. We're not going to be looking at the beef. I am hyping this up a little bit. It's a YouTube disagreement, but it's a really interesting subject. It's looking at, I'm going to use the terminology used by other people and I'm going to correct it later. Professional photographers versus influencers and YouTube photographers. We'll get into that. I'll tag the channels below if you want to listen. Be nice to people. It's just opinions. It doesn't matter. It's just photography. We're not curing cancer. Let's just make that very clear with what we do as a job here. We're all very privileged that we get to do stupid stuff on a daily basis and get paid for it. But yeah, I think, agreed.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah. It's like, just be kind.
Just be nice. Be nice to each other. It's fine to have different opinions, but we're going to look at that. We're going to look at the sort of education that is actually required to be I'm going to say professional photographer again, but we'll get into that later, a professional photographer. That's going to be a big part of what we're looking at today. It's all about education this episode. I'm not going to be able to educate you with everything you need to know. It took me 16 years to learn it, but I'm going to tell you the sort of things you need to be looking at for a whole host of different things. So, while somebody opens out the really loud gates outside, we'll probably just cut for a second and I'll cough. Now, I'm going to preface this with I don't know any of these people involved personally. I have seen and I've written down the name of the channel, the Photographic Rebuttal, a few times on YouTube. I've seen a couple of his videos. They came from my feed recently. Good videos, very interesting stuff. It's a guy, I'm sorry, I don't know your name. You'll end up like me. People think my name's Tin because my my YouTube channel is called TINHOUSESTUDIO. My name's Scott, by the way. But yeah, I don't know his name. Sorry. I'm just as annoying as other people are to me. He made a video basically stating the difference between professional photographers and social media photographers or Instagram photographers. And obviously his audience agreed with everything he said. And the people he was saying were different to him, which were, and I apologize if I get any of these wrong. It's not a genre I look at. North Borders and The Car Creative. They are YouTube photographers. I had a quick look, so I needed to double check my things first. I haven't gone through the whole catalogue of videos because it's not something that interests me. Car photography. Love cars, but it's like I like watching landscape photography videos. You would never find me on a hillside taking a landscape.
Yeah. And car photography is like scene, man. It's got to be on the floor and looking up and all this and the silly wheels, the camera, all that.
It's interesting. So they one of them, and sorry, I can't remember who, this is really bad. No, it was The Car Creative, made a comeback video sort of thing, going through the points that he raised and explaining his point of view on them very politely. I don't believe that anybody was particularly rude. It's just a differing in opinions. However, what I did notice was both of them were wrong. And both of them were wrong for the reason that each other thought each other was wrong. So I'm going to try and tackle this in the most logical way possible. Jump in if I get something wrong. So the Photographic Rebuttal is calling it professional photographers. That's not actually what he means. He means commercial photographers. That's what he's saying. And the YouTuber photographer, the Car Creative, is saying, I am a professional photographer, and he is a professional photographer. They're both professional photographers. However, they work in what can only be described as two completely different industries. Mm-hmm. It's like professional drivers. If I sell someone a professional driver, I could be anything from a Formula One driver to an Uber driver. They're both professionals. They're both very good at what they do, and they're both successful at what they do. What they do is completely different. It's a different job. It's a different industry. It's a different way of working. And I know that because I do both of them. I do one, the commercial photography, which is what was called pro photography in this video. And two, I do influencer, social media, content creation photography. Separate businesses, separate companies, separate methodologies. Both of them in what they were saying were right, and equally both in what they were saying was wrong. I'm going to pick out a few points to go through because I can understand why both videos are made. The initial one is because, and I fell victim to this, you watch a content creator, you see a billboard advert, and you think that's for you. And it's not. And you hear someone say, my friend shot an advert for Ferrari recently. He did not. He shot content for Ferrari. That is not the same as shooting the campaign for Ferrari. They're two different things. One, I would say, is actually much harder to get, which is the campaign, but neither are easy to get. Getting an invite from Ferrari to shoot for them is not easy, even if it's a dinner. Like getting booked to shoot a dinner for Ferrari is not easy. It's not a walk in the park.
Mate, have you ever tried to buy a Ferrari?
Oddly not.
Like, I mean, that's the most difficult thing in the world. It's like they vet you as a customer. Are you the kind of person they want to be seen in a Ferrari?
I am definitely
and
not.
It's absolutely that metric. It's just crazy.
Here's the thing. I'm going to try and probably muddy the waters further to explain both businesses and how they differ. As a commercial photographer, not this podcast here, this is my content creation. We shot an advert last week. Let me tell you a few things.
You say you.
I shot. You're editing it. Mate. We're still on the edit now. We'll still be on the edit in another week's time. It's going to be like a 6-week edit. Well, maybe we'll touch on that later. Maybe it's too sore of a subject at the moment. We don't know. But here's how it worked. Here's how I got booked. I got booked for my work. I got booked for my style. I got booked for my body of work. I didn't get booked for my social media following, and I definitely didn't get booked on my YouTube. They don't know I'm on YouTube. And that's by design, because it will ruin my credibility in the same way that shooting pack shots or weddings would in that world. And it is elitist. It is gatekeeperish. And it's quite twatty, I think is the best way to put it.
Yeah.
But it is that world. And I would say over here, now you listen to my podcast, this is my content creation world. I get booked by brands to shoot for them because of who I am, not what I do. And of course, you have to have a certain level of work as well. But for example, Broncolor might book me to shoot something for them with their kit because I am Tin House Studios. Now, it's sort of, that's probably a bad example. And same with the sponsors for today's video, Capture One. That only works because I'm also a commercial photographer, not because if I was just a YouTuber, it would be Adobe trying to sponsor me. And there is a real cut between who would sponsor a YouTuber and who would sponsor a commercial photographer who's also a YouTuber. It's a very different thing. Where's the point of this going? The two jobs are different. They're both difficult. Being a YouTuber requires a certain personality, a certain amount of charisma, a certain amount of understanding of marketing, which you do not need as a commercial photographer. I don't need to understand how to make highly clickable titles as a photographer. I don't need to understand how to make engaging content as a photographer.
No, but you do need to market yourself.
You do, but it's very different and it's a very closed world. And this is one of the points. So the car creator was like, you can absolutely get bookings through social media from big brands. And the photographic rebuttal was saying, no, you can't. Both are right. You could get booked to go and shoot a track day for Ferrari, or to go and photograph one of the cars for Ferrari, or some like digital assets, whatever it may be. And yes, that is professional photography. However, getting booked to shoot the campaign for $500,000, that's not happening through Instagram. Those people have nothing. The people running that Instagram account are neither the marketing department for the brand, nor the ad agency like Saatchi or can't think of a single ad agency off the top of my head now, apart from Saatchi, Ogilvy, or one of those brands. They're not the same people. The person running that social media account has no say in who shoots the ad campaign. They probably don't even know who has a say in shooting that ad campaign. Now, one of the arguments for this was that, well, Peter McKinnon got booked to shoot an ad campaign for a car brand. Yes, he did. He got booked to shoot it because he's Peter McKinnon. And yes, he got it because of YouTube and social media. There is no way in this world, no matter how hard I work at YouTube, I am becoming Peter McKinnon on YouTube. I would say it's easier to make it as a commercial photographer than to be the next Peter McKinnon. He is kind of a once-in-a-generation personality and brain, and he's so smart at what he does. So smart. That's not me. I can create great imagery with a great personal style. I can't be the next Peter McKinnon. The other thing to think of is, say you get a job through Instagram or social media, you might get like $2,000 for the day, British pounds, which is probably in America, it would be the same as getting like a $3,500, $4,000 shoot. So to get the same as what we'd get paid for an ad campaign, you need to get 50 of those jobs for every one that I get. Now, There's swings and roundabouts to both. It's far easier to get that first of 50, but it's very hard to get 50.
Yeah.
It's very hard to get one big job as well. I'm never sure what's best. And one of the reasons why I run multiple income streams is because, like, this year we've done okay. We've had 3 ad campaigns already. We normally aim for 3 to 4 a year.
Yeah, you've not had 25 of them halfway through the year.
No. But in terms of small jobs for YouTube and stuff like that, where I get paid those sorts of other figures, I've probably done 20. But we're very far from 50. But, you know, it swings and roundabouts. As far as I'm concerned, both what I do as the Tin House Studio, which I think, and do correct me if I'm wrong and I won't offend anyone here, is what North Borders and the Car Creative do. I think that is as valid, as much of a real career as my commercial photography work. However, I'm a snob, as you well know, and I am prouder of my commercial work. I'm prouder of the fact that I have sustained having an agent and getting top ad campaigns from top brands through top ad agencies. Even though, if you look at the brand list I've worked with as a YouTuber, it looks as impressive. It ain't the same thing. It's not even close. Like, getting paid a couple of grand here and there is not the same as getting paid 150 grand for doing a major campaign. You know, there's been times in London where every billboard has been my work, especially when brands have launched new big things and they've like bought all the media. And that for me is what gets myself going. However, if it's the other thing which you're into, it's no less valid and you can make just as much money. And you've seen how much we make through the YouTube channel. I can live off the YouTube channel quite comfortably.
It's a comfortable living.
It is a comfortable living. And if I really pushed it, it would be a really good living. And I would say I could actually make as much money doing YouTube as I can photography.
Yeah, I mean, one of the channels I followed early on, the slow-mo guys.
Yeah.
Like, literally every video paid for another Phantom. That's how viral that went.
And the other thing is, it's like for today, for example, it sounds like we're just sitting down having a chat. To get to this point today, we've had to get a sponsor in.
Yep.
Which is Capture One. So cheers, guys. That took negotiations. We then had to work out what we're going to do today for their content. I've then had to script their content. We've then had to work out the subject matters which will align nicely with it, which is today is going to be education, and then pull it all together. Then we've got to shoot it, we've got to edit it, and then I've got the really hard, and this is what people don't understand, the really hard bit after this is coming up with the thumbnail and title. That's what takes more time than anything else. There is a skill to it. It is an art form. And I think because of that, it's a very... People don't see how hard it is. On the flip side, being a commercial photographer, I've got to get an agent. I've got to get my agent to get my book in front of the right art buyers. I've then got to turn up to the right parties. I've then got to turn up to the right lunches and dinners. I've also got to make sure those art buyers like me. I've got to keep creating original work on new concepts and submitting it to those art buyers and the creative directors and the art directors. And I've got to keep in that world. And it's a hidden world. It's not like Instagram and YouTube where everyone can see it. It's all behind closed doors.
Yeah. And you do spend a small fortune on test shoots.
So test shoots and entertainment, pretty spenny. Probably talking 45, 50 grand a year.
Yeah, minimum, yeah.
And that's just on booze. But it's it racks up quite quickly. So I think it's interesting. There's a lot of hate in my side of the industry towards influencers, and from my generation and older towards influencers. The thing is, all those people have misplaced their hatred. They've always been influencers. You just hadn't realised because there wasn't a name to them before.
Yeah, and it's an awful name as well.
Yeah, I mean, I think when people say, oh, they're an influencer, they see some vapid person trying to sell something when they've done nothing with their life. There's a difference when you've got a skill and people are being influenced by you because of the skill you have. It's a very different thing. So I think both are right and both are wrong in what they're saying. The two things are not the same. Being a YouTube, I don't know what the word for it is. I call it content creation. What I'm doing here is content creation. But that might be called an influencer. It might be called a YouTube photographer, whatever it is. That's, it's a valid business. It's hard. It's not easy. It takes skill and you can make good money from it. It is, however, a completely different business model to commercial photography, which in this instance was called professional photography. And I understand why the first video was made, and it's because people see the Tin House Studio business model and go, oh, that's what I want to do. But they don't really, what they're thinking is they see my ad campaigns, then they see my YouTube stuff, and they follow the YouTube thing going, I need to get a YouTube channel, I need to do this. This has nothing to do with my day job. It's just a second business.
Yeah.
I say just, it's quite a fun second business. I'd say actually it's probably less stress than being a commercial photographer. Like the reason we have lots of jump cuts here is because I've got a cough. The reason I have a cough is because I've shot an ad campaign. It's, it's never easy. So yeah, I think it's an interesting thing. I think both people are right in what their sentiment was, perhaps not in the execution of what they said. And yeah, I mean, YouTubers are hated by non-YouTubers, and commercial photography is secret, elitist, and snobbery. It is my take on it, being in both camps.
Yeah.
You know, there's a little bit about, you know, where if you're a real photographer, you should be showing your work and your work only. On my photography page, you'll see my work and my work only. On my Tin House Studio page, which is where I'm a influencer, content creator, educator, is what I'd say is that website, you won't see any of my work. It ain't got nothing to do with it. Being a good teacher has nothing to do with being a good photographer.
No.
And I mean, a lot of people I get feedback on my photography from don't take photographs or know how to work a camera. Actually, nobody who I get feedback on my work from knows how to use a camera. Thinking about it. I don't think.
No, I mean, again, every man and his dog has got a camera these days, so...
Yeah, but they wouldn't be able to pick up an actual camera and take a photograph in my studio. If I handed them my camera, they wouldn't be able to make it go ka-chink. So, yeah, I think it's a really interesting topic. I, for one, fell victim to it. I was following YouTubers thinking I'd be able to become a commercial photographer because I thought that's what they were doing. And it took me probably 6 years to realize that is not the same business model. I would not be a content creator photographer. I'd be a content creator on YouTube, but not a photographer. The money's not enough. And you have to do so many jobs I don't think it's sustainable. And I know this because I used to do small jobs when I was starting out, and it's hellish. We used to do over 200 shoots a year. Like now we do 4.
I mean, I've known you, 12 years now, give or take?
We shoot a lot, didn't we?
Yeah.
Yeah, it's just, I don't know. There's a lot to it. There's a lot to it there. And I think it's interesting. I'd love to know everyone else's thoughts on this because I'm seeing it from obviously my perspective. They're seeing it from their perspective. What is your perspective? What does everyone else think? And what do you think, Rob? What's your take on this?
Well, it's like, I hate the word influencer. I do. It's like, I mean, I don't use the word hate lightly either. And I do. It's like when people say, what do you want to be in your life? Well, I would like to be an influencer.
That's always a red flag.
Yeah. It's like, really? But then equally, like, I mean, again, you know, I watch YouTube more than any normal TV, for sure. And again, you do dial into personalities. Like there's certain channels that I enjoy because the personality of the host.
Yeah, I mean, I watch Thomas Heaton's channel purely because I like watching Thomas Heaton. I have no interest in landscape photography whatsoever, but I like his channel because it's his channel.
Yeah.
Which is this is where it becomes difficult. You can easily take good photographs. You can't turn your personality into a likable personality for everyone.
Yeah.
That's, you know, you've either got it or you haven't. So obviously you get better. I've got much better at presenting on YouTube, but it's not the sort of thing where anybody can do it. Whereas I think almost anybody can be a good photographer with work.
Yeah, I mean, like technically, yes.
Yeah, technically, yes. Creatively, maybe not. I don't know. I'm still on the fence on that one. But technically, yes. And yeah, I think you're right. I mean, you get a lot of people on my channel going, "Oh, you're just another influencer. I hate you." It's like, why are you watching YouTube?
And importantly, like, why hate?
I know.
Just move on.
I know.
You know, so sorry and all that, but yeah.
I know. So yes, to just summarize all of that, both were completely wrong, both were completely right, and both were completely valid, I think. And yeah, I think it's nobody truly understands somebody else's perspective, and even mine. My understanding of what the chap at the Photography Rebuttal's commercial photography world looks like could be completely off. Just because mine looks like that doesn't mean his does. And my understanding of what the car channels content creation businesses look like might be completely because mine works in a certain way. I mean, we don't sell presets. I don't sell presets for an ethical standpoint.
No look packs, Scott.
No look packs. For me, it's an ethical thing because my education mantra says they're no good. But if yours says they are good, sell them. Like, this is my opinion. I don't think they're useful to anybody. I think they hold photographers back on learning how to do stuff. Other people will say, I think they're really useful for new photographers because it shows them what I've done, and therefore they can start.
What was it back in the day? Visco. There was Visco. There was Visco presets, wasn't it? That was the big one way back when.
But it's just, opinions are opinions. Everyone's got them. They're all right, they're all wrong, and somewhere in between is also valid. I think so. I think it's an interesting debate. I'm not sure. I obviously have just called out 2 channels, but I'm not sure I would have called out a channel on YouTube in that sense. But I think it's an interesting. Obviously, now it's all public. I can discuss it because I'm not really calling either out. I think they're both right and both wrong.
Yeah,
in different ways, as is everything I've just said.
Yeah, it's a polar thing. Like I say, none of them are wrong.
Yeah.
Or in the words of Obi-Wan, from a certain point of view.
Exactly. And I think, I didn't realise this, but a lot of people, I say things quite flippantly on YouTube, often with no thought whatsoever. And someone's like, you said this. I'm like, yeah, I disagree with that today. I thought that on Wednesday. Doesn't mean on Thursday I still think the same thing.
Yeah.
It's just an opinion. So this brings us down to, what do you need to learn as a commercial photographer? We're going to go through this, but first of all, I want to talk to you about today's sponsor, Capture One, because this is a big part of what you need to learn as a photographer. If you want to work commercially, and again, let's keep these definitions right, commercially, ad campaigns, agents, ad agencies, billboards. And yes, you can shoot a billboard without doing this route, but if you want to actually get paid for it, you kind of need to know what Capture One is and how it works because it's industry standard. Despite the fact it's the best software you can use, even if it wasn't, you have to use it. So, Capture One have an accreditation, and I could really struggle to say that word for some reason, an accreditation system where you can go on there and learn for a structured course, and then you get your certificate at the end of it. If you want to learn Capture One, because you're coming from somewhere else, do the accreditation. If you want to work as a digitech, which will pay you more per day than a content creator gets paid, do the accreditation. If you come to me and go, I've done the Capture One accreditation, I know what I'm doing, can I be a digitech for you? Yes. If you come to me going, I've done Capture One, I know Capture One, I've never worked as a digitech, can I give it a go? I'd say no, I'm not trusting with my files. It goes through the whole thing. There's a whole, is gamut the right word? Gamut of topics. It becomes a sort of, there's an introduction, it runs you through the basics of it. Then there's the Digitech basics. This will give you 8 modules and it shows you the whole workstation, how to get it up and running, and what a photographer really expects you to know. Then there's a load of stuff about on set. That'll be connections, troubleshooting, and troubleshooting happens on all software. And it is always, when it's tethering, a camera or cable issue. Securing backups, collaborating with clients, that's using Studio Live, all that good stuff. Then we have a load on post-production, and then there's some exams at the bottom to make sure you've actually paid attention. So if you want to learn that, we'll pop a link down below. You can get 30% off Capture One today.
That's a lot.
That is a lot. This offer will not last forever. We get a limited amount of them for each one, so get on it. Because, do you know what's really annoying though? I've still not applied the 30% discount code to my own stuff.
To yourself, yes.
Yeah, what an idiot. But, well. So obviously, capture is a huge part of learning in photography. And this is why, one of the reasons I don't agree with LUTs and what they call presets and all the rest of it. They don't work.
Well, because everybody's looks the same.
Well, there's that, but also, unless you have the same camera lens, camera settings, lighting settings, and everything else, you're just applying a random grade from an image to yours, and then you have to adjust it anyway. It's better just to learn how to edit, is my theory.
Yeah, it's like color grading. It's like if you learn how to color grade and you understand it, then you don't need LUTs.
Exactly. On the flip side, with audio editing, I don't know how to edit audio, so we basically use a preset you've made me.
Yes.
Because...
But again, I did make that from scratch. It wasn't like some preset.
And it's made specifically for these mics in this room at this distance for this purpose. It doesn't work on anything else. But yeah, this whole accreditation system is great for anybody who's a pro photographer who wants to brush up their skills, especially with all the updates. If you're a few versions behind, you want to get the latest sort of like knowledge, this is a good idea. Pro photographers who want to up their skill set within Capture One, assistants who want to get more Capture One knowledge, and going from assistant to Digitech is a pretty well-trodden path, actually. Pro photographers or assistants who want to learn digital technician workflows, and again, like I don't know how to edit in Photoshop or like beyond the basics, but I understand how it works, and understanding that is useful because then when I give Rob the assets I shot to make the final composite, I know I've given him the right things. Whereas in the early days when I didn't know this stuff, I'm like, Rob, mate, can you do this? You're like, yeah, no, not really. That's not an option at this point.
Like, Rob, could we just? It's shiny gold bars, isn't it, Scott? Again, here we go.
Always,
always the gold bars.
And also, any students who are studying photography who want to learn the industry standard software, because it is, you basically Capture One is all that's used on a commercial set.
Yeah, and that's what's important. It's like yes, there are many other softwares out there of a similar stature, but it's not the standard. Like, you know, if you're on a commercial set, that's what you're expected to know. Yeah.
If somebody turned up to Digi for me and they had Lightroom, I would be panicking at this point. I'd be like, you don't know what you're doing, which is why Lightroom presets are also a red flag. But, you know, each to their own, I suppose. So what do you need to learn apart from the software? What else do you need to know? You need to know about lighting. And not lighting setups, which in my head are presets. If someone goes, I know a 3-point lighting setup, you've basically learned a preset pack. And that's not what it is. You need to understand lighting. And it becomes quite simple, really. There's two elements to it. There's understanding the physics, the inverse square law, the qualities of light, focused light, defocused light, specular, diffused, hard, soft. The amount of people who get soft and diffused muddled up. You know, it's just, you need to understand these things. And then you also need to have the experience to know when to apply it. Understanding how a reflector changes the inverse square law, understanding how a parabolic changes the inverse square law, understanding where to focus your parabolic, understanding how to use an optical, but I guess the optical equivalent of a parabolic is like a Fresnel. You know, knowing how to, you know, something like a Satos pack when you've got a glass modifier like a Fresnel, and then you've got something like a parabolic. The white balance is different. So you need to change the white balance on the power pack. Understanding that, how to read it, how to adjust it. Understanding the effect of flash power on the look. And this is something everyone's like, if the power gives you the correct exposure, whether it's minimum or maximum, it looks the same. It don't.
Well, that's why you shoot everything at max power always.
Always on max power.
Yeah.
I will not take a shot with less than 3,200 joules of light. And I know, theoretically, if I changed the ISO and ISO noise wasn't a thing and lowered the power, it should look the same, but it don't.
It doesn't, yeah.
It does not. So there's a whole load of stuff like that. You need to be able to walk into a room and go, you've seen when I do shoots, I'll be like, put it there, angle it like this, raise it 10 meters, put it on 2,800 watts. And I know it's correct. A new photographer will be there for ages messing with modifiers, messing with this, with that, you know, all the rest of it. You need to understand these things. You need to be able to look at a modifier and know what it's going to look like before you put it on. You need to be able to look at a light position and know what the fall off's going to be like. You know, if you want to get sharper shadows, you need to understand how to do that. And if there's like limitations, and often are, of the room size, you need to know how to still make it look how you need it to look for the client, despite the limitations and how they're going to screw your physics. Anything to add on lighting?
No, but I think that, again, that's the technicalities of it. But the one thing that you do need to take time to learn, dare I say it, is a bit of taste.
Yes. And then
that's a whole thorny issue. But
whenever anyone says I've got a hair light, I'm like, I'm just going to get a little hair light out. Yeah, taste is very difficult to account for.
Like, I mean, you know, we're both big fans of movies, and stuff looks good, and you know, you may not understand why, but you just know that you like it.
Yes,
and it's because of that, because the cinematographer had taste and just knew what he was doing.
Yeah, it's like peak Wes Anderson as the Grand Budapest Hotel. Those dolly shots with the big wide lenses. Like, taste is a difficult one. And the problem is, if you don't learn photography in the right way and you learn it in lighting setups and LUTs, you don't develop a taste. I have so many photographers coming to me for one-to-ones, and they've just learned the cookie cutter approach of photography. And of course, I'm like, yeah, you've perfectly executed that. You're never getting booked because you look the same as every other person who had the cookie cutter approach to photography.
Yeah, and it's quite bland.
Yeah, we spend most of our time trying to detrain people. It's like if you ever worked in bars and you get someone who's worked in a bar before somewhere else, it's like, oh, good God, I'm going to have to teach them how to undo everything they've learned to do it the way we want it. And it's often quicker to get someone who's never worked in a bar before to train them up than it is to retrain somebody. And I think, going back to the original point that this photography rebuttal was making, that is part of the issue, is that people are learning one thing and it's not the thing they need to learn. Then you've got to unlearn it. And it's very, like he was saying, like, once information's out there and it gets repeated and repeated and repeated, there is so much wrong information on YouTube on how to do things and the correct way to do things. Like, we'll literally explain how we've just done something on like a £250,000 shoot. And someone will be like, yeah, but so-and-so says you should do it like this, so you're wrong. It's like, yeah, they don't have a clue what we're talking about. They work in a different industry. Not a worse industry, a different industry. It'd be like a wedding photographer talking to me about something. I'm like, that's great. We're both photographers. We have nothing to do with each other's jobs. Nothing at all. It's like everyone ranting about dual card slots. Professional cameras don't have dual card slots. You got a Phaser or a Hasselblad. In my world.
But again, back in the day, you didn't either.
No.
And then it became a thing. And all of a sudden,
we did. Early digital cameras, 2002 onwards, had dual card slots for the pro cameras for sports and events. And the reason they had them was to write JPEGs to one on the SD card and a CF card for your RAWs. And you handed your JPEG card to be ran to the wire.
I mean, like, was it the 5D Mark III of the first 5 series to have a dual card slot?
The Pro series, the 1D series, always had dual card slots.
And that was one of the tips you gave me early on. You're like, always shoot raw in JPEG, because if your card corrupts, you're more likely to be able to recover the JPEGs than the raw proprietary Canon.
Oh, we've got a whole video coming out on this, actually. There's a whole load of stuff. It's like lost art of not getting corrupted files that we used to do. Which no one, again, it isn't on YouTube. And I think the guy at Photography Rebuttal was right. 25%, and I think that's generous, of the information you need to be a commercial photographer is on YouTube. I think it's less than that.
Yeah, I mean, you've always been like, if it's worth knowing, it's not free.
Yeah.
And buy the guy's book.
No, exactly. There's a reason why we set up our own education platform, because I'm not giving my secret. It's 16 years of sweating. I'm not giving that away for free.
No.
Give it away for we found a way that it pays me enough money that I feel like I'm not giving away trade secrets for free, and it doesn't cost everyone a fortune by doing it's like £20 a month.
Yeah, and I believe it's called Studio Access.
It is called Studio Access. Will I remember to put a link in this? No, because I'm a rubbish content creator. If I was a good content creator, you'd find that link.
And you're not a soulless shill, so.
Do you know what? I would not agree with that at all. I would say I'm a soulless shill. People like, are there any brands that you ethically wouldn't shoot for? I'm like, I've always got a price. Name a brand, I'll have a price.
Jaguar.
Yes. Yes.
Well, they have just fired their ad agency, so.
Oh, are we getting in touch with them? I would shoot for anybody if the price is right. Like, you look at, I'm not going to name any companies, I don't want them not to work with me, because I'll take their money. Because someone's getting that money and I'll spend it better. I'll buy them dog treats.
Or squirrel it away, yeah.
Yeah, I'd probably squirrel it away like I always do. But hide it in the bank. I wouldn't say that I'm beyond shilling. I'm a business person at the end of the day, aren't I? It's
yeah.
We all are. If you want to work in commercial, if you want to be, I've got tangent galore here, an ethical photographer, go and shoot documentaries about meaningful things.
Yeah, with the whales or something. You know.
Don't become a content creator, YouTube photographer, whatever you want to call it. Don't become a commercial photographer. But if you want to go and do something meaningful, go and shoot stories about things that people don't know about and should be aware about and share it with the world. If I start doing that, you'll know I've won the lottery. That's what I'd like to do, but the realities of my life are I need to eat.
Yeah.
And
you like fancy food as well.
I do like, well, I like fancy and cheap food. I like every food. it's an issue. The diet's not going great. How's your diet going at the moment, by the way?
I mean, I've just been hungry for 8 months, mate. I say I hit the 3 stone milestone. So I'm like, yes, 3 stone down. So I'm halfway to goals. But God, I miss bread.
Oh God, I miss everything.
I miss bread and cheese, man.
I miss beer. I really miss beer. It's but I just had, obviously, we had a party in London, and then I had a 3-day shoot, and I gained 3 kilograms during that period, which is basically what I'd lost over the previous.
And that's a lot of gin.
8 weeks. It's a lot of gin and tonics. So yeah, lighting. We've covered lighting very vague. And again, when I say these things, and this thing, we need to learn about lighting. I could talk to you for weeks on end about lighting. I could probably make a week-long video just about bare ball flash. There's that much to know. That much to know. And it is so nerdy. And I often forget what I know because it becomes second nature. But it is like, we were with Paul on this job last week. And he was like, where do you want that light? I was like, 32 centimeters further back and move it up by 0.2. And he was like, roughly. I went, no, exactly 32 centimeters back. I was like, I know exactly what it needs to be. And I only know that because I do it so many times. I've gone so deep into it. Camera gear. What do you need to know about camera gear? And this is an interesting one. So as a content creator, as a YouTube photographer, you need to know a fair amount about camera gear. I need to know how that black magic there works because I'm shooting myself often by myself. I need to know how my camera basically works because I'm obviously shooting stills for brands by myself. As a commercial photographer, don't need to know much. Not a great deal because I have a lighting assistant, a digitech who manages the camera and the computer, an assistant, a runner, a producer. I just need to know it looks good. And I mean, you end up knowing what the gear is. It's like, if it's a big job, you get an IQ3 150 on a phase 1. If it's a smaller job, you get an IQ3 100. And if it's a really small job, Fuji GFX. That's your options. They're your camera options. That's all you can use in the UK. And of course, someone's going to go, well, I'm a commercial photographer. I shoot with an R5. Yes. there are different things in there. You might be a fashion photographer. And again, I wouldn't class a fashion photographer as a commercial photographer. Because yes, you might be shooting commercially, but it is its own thing. To be a fashion photographer is so niche. It makes me look like the broad spectrum of everything. Your knowledge has to be so specific.
Yeah. And you actually have to understand fashion. That's the thing.
I know the amount of people who come to me, I want to be a fashion photographer. I'm like, what do you know about fashion? I know about light. I'm like, brilliant. No. Unless you've been studying fashion and you've lived fashion, you ain't going to be a fashion photographer.
No, I mean, obviously, as anyone's ever met me knows I know nothing about fashion.
I know nothing. I mean, I know about fashion photography. I can spot a good fashion photographer, but I can't shoot fashion. I could do technically the same photograph. I could light it the same, pose it the same. I don't understand fashion. When you're a content creator or YouTuber, or you know what I mean, we'll just put it in content creator and commercial photographer. You need to know a lot about cameras. You need to know everything about cameras. When I was shooting small jobs, which would have been classed as content creation today, but back then was just classed as local photographer, I had to know everything. Every lens, every camera body. I had to know that 160 ISO and a 5D Mark II was better than 100. I had to understand that sometimes when your shutter actuations go over 150, you can no longer shoot in portrait mode at flash sync. You have to go down to 100th and not 1/2/5.
I mean, I'd argue you don't need to know everything about cameras. You need to know everything about the stuff you own.
Yes. You don't need to go watching videos on all the different kit. Unless you're a digitech, and then you do.
Yeah.
Digitech's great. They phone you up like, what camera are you shooting on? As soon as you say Fuji GFX, they go, have you got it dialed in? Because I was scared of the tethering issues with it. I'm like, yes, we're dialed in and we've got the setting saved to an SD card. And then in terms of post-production, as a commercial photographer, you need to understand how it works. You don't need to be able to do it. As a content creator, you need to understand the lot.
Yeah.
And we've got some content creation shoots coming up. I've got a pre-prod meeting next week. And that is because of who I am on social media. We have those jobs. And they found me on social media. And I need to do the edit myself because there is no budget for a retoucher. And, that's just how it is. So one's a very broad skill set and one's a very niche skill set. Because of the way I came up in photography, I know everything that I don't need to know as well. Like, I understand when a certain color channel is clipping on a certain sensor, whether it matters or not. I don't need to know that in my current job. But because I learned it on the way up, it's still in there somewhere. I understand about corner to corner sharpness and how to work around it at different apertures. I know how to use a technical camera, which is where you've got rise, fall, tilt, shift, front and back on bellows. I know how to do all of that stuff. But actually, if I turn up with that camera, my Digitech can focus it for me. I know how to do focus stacking, but that's my Digitech's job.
Yeah, and also you try and avoid it avidly, having a technical camera where you don't need to. So
yeah, I know. Do you know what? On that shoot, we had that cambo at the limit. Like the lens was bent all the way down. There's all of the technical movements to get these shots sharp. Because focus stacking only works if nothing's moving. When things start moving, you need a technical camera. You also need to know that they're available as a thing and how to, the limits of them and all the rest of it. We had to adjust composition to get the actual shot in focus. Because even with a top of the line technical camera, there's still a limit. You can't just go forever. There's a
it's like in the video world, like, oh, you shoot your raw, doesn't matter. No, it does. You still need to be, in the ballpark of what you want.
Yes, absolutely. There is so much learning to do in photography. And going back to the original photographic rebuttal video, if you want to be a commercial photographer, what you're probably ending up doing is learning loads of stuff you don't need to know. If you want to be a content creator, YouTube is the place to learn it. And you can probably learn 75% of it because a lot of it is covered in YouTube videos. You can't learn that last 20. Like, there's stuff I know about YouTube that you only know because you've been doing it for a while.
Having done it, yeah.
Yeah. And you've got bits of information from other, like YouTubers are quite friendly to each other. Like Carl Taylor gave me loads of advice on how to do YouTube bits. Photographic Eye. Brilliant channel, loads of advice. He really helped me. He drove down to the studio and literally gave me a day of his time, showing me how to do it. And in exchange, I showed him how to set up a off YouTube financial moneymaker because I was good at that one. He was good at this one. We helped each other out. Most people are pretty friendly here. I'd say it's the same in the commercial photography world. Most commercial photographers are pretty chummy. If I need to do something, I don't know how to do it, I could think of at least 10 people who are competitors to me that I could phone up and ask, and they'd tell me. I don't think that's the same local photography-wise. I don't think you'd phone up a local competitor and be like, how do you do that thing you do?
Yeah, but that's like a different thing.
Yeah, it is a very different thing. And I think the local photographer is kind of becoming the content creator. And again, they're completely different jobs. But times move. Things are always moving. I would say content creation is probably a safer industry to get into than commercial photography.
Yeah, probably.
It's got more legs.
I mean, let's face it, YouTube's not going away anytime soon, is it?
No, so. and the shoots you get from being a YouTuber, I was really shocked that people were trying to book me as a photographer off my YouTube channel. I don't take those jobs. Well, I do now because they're getting enough money, but I wouldn't have taken the jobs at the time. So often like $1,000 a day, and it's not worth it when you can make considerably more on one ad campaign. However, when I was starting out, I'd have lapped that up. That'd have been a game changer in the early days.
Yeah.
And it only took me, 2 years to make YouTube? It only took me 2 years to make YouTube financially viable. It took me 10 years to make photography financially viable in the commercial sense. 10 years. It was hard. And I can sort of understand the frustration of some commercial photographers towards content creators. Because it's like, oh, it's got it so easy. We had to do all of this. Different job, different times.
Yeah, and it's like so many things. Like, you know, when you get like the guy straight out of uni on the fast track.
Yeah.
Like, and you're like, yeah, but that's that. You know, like.
And the other thing is, there's always exceptions to the rule.
Of course.
Peter McKinnon shooting that advert, exception to the rule. You know, the photographer who comes straight, like, I won't name him. I know a photographer who worked in retail, minimum wage job. And within, 3 months of starting photography, shot a worldwide campaign. You cannot use him as a case study. It's a freak of nature.
Yeah, it's the outlier, not the rule.
And the problem is we all look to the outliers. We all look to the outliers because it makes it seem, and you know, why shouldn't we? It
seems
feels
attainable
good.
then,
yeah.
if you do, but yeah.
If you saw what it actually took to make a profitable YouTube channel and content creation brand, you wouldn't do it. If you saw what it took to be a commercial photographer, for the majority of us, you wouldn't do it. If someone said, by the way, for 10 years you're eating baked beans out of a tin, you're skint, we had to sleep in cars because we couldn't afford hotels.
The classic starving artist.
Oh my God, it was horrific. I've slept on everybody I know's sofa at some point. You wouldn't do it. But because of these outliers, you're like, oh yeah, look, they're doing great. Let's go and do that. That looks like good fun. It only took them a couple of years.
Yeah.
I thought I'd be 3 years in and making money when I started. I mean, I never lost money, but I didn't make enough to actually live on.
Yeah. I mean, you got by.
Yeah, just. I mean, there was some severe scurvy and malnutrition. But education in both lights are key. And for both of them, you can't get it all for free. You want to learn to be a great content creator. Actually, do you know what? My friend shoots car content stuff for big brands. I'll see if I can get him on the channel. You know him. I won't name him here in case he doesn't want to be named. He's always busy. He's traveling the world, like all over the world, exotic cars. He is having the time of his life. It's not commercial photography. If I spoke to one of my car photographer friends who's doing like big campaigns for like 100 grand a day plus, they'd be like, yeah, no, he's not a real commercial photographer. But maybe by the end of each year, they've both made the same money.
Yeah.
Who's had more fun? I don't know. I love doing YouTube stuff. There's never any stress. There's no stress in creating this compared to turning up on set.
Yeah.
Like, it's brutal. You don't sleep the night before because you're so stressed. You turn up, you're stressed. You speak to your assistant who's been there for a few hours and they're like, yeah, none of the broncolor packs are working because we've got the wrong plugs because the rental house is messed up. What did we have last time? The aperture domes. They'd replace the speed rings with cheap ones, and they kept falling out of the 1200 watt lights. They'd only sit in the 600 watt lights. So we're like, wait for that. There's always something. Client gives you feedback that's completely useless. Can we have some softer hard light on there? Can we have it a bit lighter and darker?
Yeah.
Can we have the shadows deeper but more open? It's like, yeah, great. The food stylist bangs the table and the food falls down. And you've been setting up for 2 hours for that one shot. It's like, oh, there we go, 2 more hours on the clock. Yep. You're constantly juggling budgets. And even though your producer's there and your agent's there to do it, they're still in your ear. All these people are in your ear. You've got the client in your ear, the ad agent
still needs doing.
Yeah, you've got your digitech going. Do you want to check sharps at the front? At the same time, your lighting assistant's going, we just blown a bulb. It's relentless. It is exhausting. And then you've got to go out for dinner afterwards with everyone and have drinks and food. And you get home to your hotel at midnight, you wake up at 6 the next day and you do it all again.
Mm. We did it 3 days back to back, didn't you, last time?
Yeah. Oh, we did one shoot in, I can't remember when it was now, last year. It was 6 days long. Shot on a Saturday as well. And I stayed in the hotel that night and then drove back the next day and had to stop for sleep twice on the drive home. So I thought I was going to die. And I was like, I've got to sleep. Slept for 2 hours in a service station and then started driving. I was like, nope, that wasn't enough. Where's the next one? 20 miles away. Shit, let's get in there. And it's, do I just like it because it's prestigious? Maybe. I've always been very elitist. It's like when I looked through my career choices in life, I was going to be a professional violinist, then I was going to be a professional athlete, and then I was going to be a professional photographer. And when looking at professional photography, commercial photography is the pinnacle. Maybe fine art is.
See, when I was at school, I knew for a fact I was going to be a computer programmer.
Really?
Yeah, it didn't happen.
No,
it did not happen at all.
See, whatever I've decided I'm doing, and this is probably a slight neurodivergent trait here, I ignore everything else around it, much to the detriment of everything else in my life and everyone else in my life. But I am fully, when I was going to be an athlete, I was fully in. I didn't even go to school. When I was then going to, there was a brief period afterwards, so I was like, oh my word, this has failed. I'm going to be a sports scientist. I went all in. Did the degree, did the master's, did the diploma. And then I was like, I'm going to be a photographer. Literally stopped that the next day. Yeah. I was like, that's gone. Now into photography, learn everything. Like I used to be able to look at a film stock, a scene, decide what developer I was going to do, where I was going to place it in the zone, and know what the print was going to look like on a certain paper. Now, I do actually think I'd go as far as saying fine art is probably the pinnacle of photography, because if I look at my career and where it's going, I'd imagine at some point I will stop shooting commercially and just create fine art. I'd imagine that'll be the direction I go in.
Yeah.
That'll be the next frontier.
Once the nest is fully feathered.
Once the nest is feathered and we're mortgage free and we're child free and there's no, when life is affordable, I think is the answer. When I can live off like,
if it ever will be in the UK.
Well, yeah, quite. When it's more affordable, yeah, that's probably what I'll do. I think fine art is probably. I'm going to go out there on a whim here. Fine art is the pinnacle of photography, and level to that would be documentary work. If you can make a career in either of those, you are at the top. Because both of them, they pay very well for a very small number of people. Like most fine art photographers don't make a penny.
Yeah.
Those who do make a penny make a pretty penny. It's documentary photography is just good. It's my favorite genre to look at. But I'm too socially awkward to do it. I could do still life documentary work. That's kind of what I do, really. But
yeah. I mean, it's like, my dream job would be on Attenborough's crew, like doing like, Blue Planet or something.
Yeah, that'd be sick.
Right, that's living your best life right there.
That is. And for a lot of people being elitist, like one of my brothers would hate anything elitist. I am literally the most elitist person ever. And the thing is, I used to deny it in the past. But I'm like, no, that is who I am. I would like to be the best at the hardest thing, and that is it. That is all my interest is. I'm hyper competitive, super focused. That's what I'd like to do. I don't ever start anything thinking I'll be anything but successful, which means I don't have hobbies.
Yeah, I mean, the hobby I had became a job. So yeah, I now actually do need a hobby.
And people are like, what do you shoot in your spare time? I'm like, my work. Yeah. So, going forward now to what you need to learn. Did we touch on post-production before that massive tangent?
No.
Post-production.
Other than saying that Capture One is the industry standard that you do need to learn.
You need to know how Capture One works. As a commercial photographer, you need to know how it works and to be able to work it. And also you need to understand editing. Commercial photographers do not edit their own work. And of course, someone's going to go, I do.
You've got so much hate over the years on YouTube for that. The minute you mention that you have a retoucher, they're like, well, you're not a real professional because you don't do it yourself. And you're like,
exactly. And this is the same things people go, well, these content YouTube photographers aren't real photographers. I get the same hate from people who are into that world. Oh, if you don't edit your own work, you're not a real photographer. When we're sat in Little Italy, slamming gin and tonics, opposite is a place called Tapestry. That is a post-production house. Unit, who we use, are a post-production house. You don't edit your own work. Because there are professional editors in the way that there are professional lighting assistants. There, you don't do it all in this part of the industry. It's not to say it's wrong to do it all elsewhere. Different business models.
Yeah.
Sometimes your post-production budget is bigger than a content creator's annual salary, but you don't get to have that money. You look at it and go, oh, look at all that money for post. You don't see it. It goes straight to the editing house.
Yeah.
Other times, like this job we're doing at the moment, the post budget is not massive. We're doing it in-house. And if I could edit, would I do it myself? Probably. Why not? Extra money.
Yeah.
Although I have got a lot of other stuff to be doing whilst you're doing that edit. So there are only 7 days in a week and I'm only allowed to work 6 of them now.
Yes.
I'm banned from 7-day weeks. That's no longer an option for me, apparently. But yeah, anything to add, Rob? Anything to add?
Oh, it's like, I mean, especially when it comes to like post-production, I mean, which is kind of my, I suppose, area of expertise. And I hate saying that word, but more or less. Mainly because I wasn't particularly good as a photographer, so I had to learn to fix all my mistakes early on, and that taught me some mad Photoshop skills, but it's like understanding. I mean, we've done all sorts of stuff.
Yeah,
and it's like it's the approach that you have to look at. All right, okay, what's the best way to do this? Not necessarily like the most efficient, but what's the best way?
Yeah.
Because at the level, obviously, in the clients you work for, like perfection is the only acceptable standard, and that isn't always fast.
No, absolutely.
I mean, I remember the other summer when I was talking about the gold bars earlier. A standing joke, but like you had an apprentice in for the summer. If you remember the kids' name.
Oh yeah, I remember him. Yeah.
And go and watch Rob, and like 4 hours later, still on the first photo.
Yeah.
And it's like, there he is. And you're like, wow, that's not quick, is it? I'm like, no. Some days it just isn't. And that's the reality of it.
Yeah, it takes a lot of time, patience, and skill and experience as well. Because you need to know, there's probably 100 ways you could attack today's edit we're going to do next. But you need to choose which one.
Yeah.
And that'll be down to you going, well, last time I did it this way, we came unstuck because of tomatoes later on in the edit. And when we did it this way, we came unstuck because of the greens. So what we need to do is try this approach here.
Yeah.
And sometimes coming up with hybrid approaches. Yeah, it's also like,
and no two jobs are the same either.
Exactly. It's like Paul had to rig up a heat shield for my camera last week, so we didn't set fire to it because of the way we're shooting. I've never had a heat shield rigged up.
Now you have.
And now I have.
Yeah.
So there we go. I think it's an interesting topic, and I thank both parties in this YouTube thing for making those videos, because I think it's a really good talking point. I think it's a very interesting and misunderstood debate from both sides. Not both YouTube channels, I mean, like, from both sides of the fence. I think if you speak to a commercial photographer, it's nothing to do with YouTube, their equivalent of their opinion of a YouTube photographer will be way off the mark. And if I speak to somebody who's grown up learning photography from YouTube, what a commercial photographer does, it'll be way off the mark. It's two separate worlds, and the two don't really cross over. There's not, apart from the fact that you use a camera, there's not a lot of transferable skills.
Yeah.
In the same way that an Uber driver can drive a car, but if they try and drive a Formula 1 car out of the pit, they're going to go sideways straight away. It's not and also you put a Formula 1 driver in an Uber, I don't think it's going to be a very good time for the passengers.
Well, it's like the old Top Gear, the star in a reasonably priced car.
Yeah.
Like, 2 wheels over the line.
Exactly. It'll be exactly like that. But yeah, I think it's interesting. I think it's a very interesting debate, very interesting topics. Everyone be nice to everybody.
Yeah, just be kind.
Be kind, be nice.
It's okay to have a different opinion.
Yeah, it's okay to think something's wrong and something's right, and for someone else to think the opposite. It's all good. I don't get offended when people disagree with my opinions. Unless I'm paying their salary, then they absolutely have to toe the line.
Yeah. On set, you do what you're told.
Yes.
That's that.
Yeah, on set, everybody has to agree with my opinion. They can disagree with it after, but not in front of the client. Nor can they have any ideas. That's never a good sign.
Yeah, it's like, Scott, what if... Rob, just do what I ask and it's all good. Yeah?
Yes.
It's your name on the job, your name on the ticket.
To touch on that, actually, so I have a strict rule on set. Nobody voices an opinion. Nobody has any ideas. And it is twofold. One is I've probably already thought of it. And two is if I haven't, I definitely don't have the mental capacity to think about it, because my brain is full. And it might be so much better than what we're currently doing, but I currently can't compute.
Yeah.
And it's, there's only so much mental load you can take. And when someone goes, what about doing this? I'm like, I can't even think about that. Paul often, because he's known me for a long time, will just go and do something without telling me. And that's fine, because I don't have to think about it. And he knows me very well. But other
and again, importantly, you're not being questioned in front of the client. So
yeah, that always makes you look bad as well. And I've never had a time when someone's done something like that in front of the client and there's not been a really good reason why I've not suggested it. But of course, there will be times when that isn't the case, and it's just I've hit absolute mental capacity.
Yeah,
because I've got 7 people asking me. I've got someone asking me about hotel for the night. Someone's asking me whether we want to spend budget from this pot here on this thing here. Somebody else asked me about overtime hours. Someone's asking me about how to deliver these courier service with a hard drive or WeTransfer. And then someone's like, "Oh, should we just?" I'm like, no. No, thanks. Anyway, we'll leave it there. We'll see you all next week.
Ciao for now.